Hi everyone, welcome back to Ancient Chinese Wisdom Life. Today we talk about the second hexagram, Kun. Both the inner and outer trigrams are Kun, Earth. All 6 lines of Kun are yin lines, so Kun represents pure yin. In Wilhelm's translation, it is called the receptive, because the basic quality of Kun is receptive. If hexagram Qian is like heaven, active, creative, and constant moving, then Kun is like the earth. It receives, supports, and allows life to grow. This is why the image commentary says, the movement of earth is Kun, thus the noble person uses deep virtue to carry all things. In other words, the earth in its devotion carries all things, good and evil without exception. In the same way, the noble person gives to his character purity and sustaining power, so that he is able both to support and to bear with people and things. It tells us that strength is not always about pushing forward. Sometimes true strength is the ability to hold, to support, and to give space for things to become themselves. So Kun is the perfect complement of Qian. There is no real dualism here. Qian gives the creative impulse, Kun receives the impulse and gives it its form. In traditional Chinese culture, this relationship was often compared to heaven and earth, father and mother, ruler and minister, or the active and receptive sides within human life. So within every situation, there is an active force and a receptive force. There is the power that begins and the power that receives. In simple words, Kun is not about leading by force. It is about being useful, receptive, and supportive. It follows the right guidance and helps things become real. Now let's look at the hexagram statement, 卦辞. First, just like Qian, Kun also begins with the 2 Chinese characters Yuan, Heng, great success, smooth development, and the opening of a path. So Kun opens the way to great success. But its power works in a different way, because what is favorable here is the steady perseverance of a mare. The horse belongs to earth just as the dragon belongs to heaven. The dragon rises into the sky, the horse runs across the vast plains, so the mare becomes a symbol of the earth, broad, tailless, gentle, devoted, and able to travel far. If the noble person tries to go first, he becomes lost, but if he follows, he finds the true guide. This is the central wisdom of Kun. In this situation, the person is not in the position of the main initiator. He should not rush ahead blindly or try to force direction before he understands what the situation requires. Instead, he should observe, listen, receive guidance, and follow the right path as it becomes clear. In simple words, Kun is to be useful, not leading the usage. Then in the southwest one gains friends, in the northeast one loses friends. The west and south are usually connected with yin power. As we discussed before, Kun is the mother, then Xun is the first daughter, Li is the second daughter, and Dui is the third daughter. The north and east are usually connected with the yang power. Qian here is the father, Zhen is the first son, Kan is the second son, and Gen is the last son. So in this case, we need to gather enough strength from friends who have the same properties and targets as us to complete the work. Finally, the statement says, peaceful and correct perseverance brings good fortune. This is the final advice of Kun. Don't rush, don't compete for leadership when the time calls for receptivity. Remain broad and patient, like the earth. If Qian teaches us how to move forward with creative strength, Kun teaches us how to receive, support, and bring things into reality. If you receive hexagram Kun in divination, it usually suggests that you should learn from the receptive power of Kun. Don't rush to lead or force your own direction. If you can act like the earth, follow the right guidance, gather help when work must be done, seek quietness when direction must be found, and through patient perseverance allow good fortune to appear. If asking about childbirth, traditionally this hexagram may be interpreted as the birth of a girl. Now let's move to the 6 lines. The first line, stepping on the frost, solid ice is coming. It gives us a very clear warning image. At first, there is only a thin layer of frost under the feet. It may not feel serious yet, but frost tells us that the yin power has already begun, and if this tendency continues, solid ice will come soon. There is one old Chinese saying, 3 feet of ice don't form in a single day, just as Rome wasn't built in a day. So this line is about recognizing early signs. A serious result usually doesn't appear suddenly. Before it arrives, there are often small signals. In nature, the first frost in the autumn tells us that winter is coming. In life, it is the same. If we ignore these signs, they may continue to grow until the situation becomes much harder to change. So the wise person sees the beginning, prepares early, and prevents danger before it becomes too strong. If this is your changing line, the advice is be careful, stay alert, and don't rush forward blindly. This may be a time to accumulate strength, observe the signs, and prepare yourself. If you are asking about a plan or project, check the small problems early. Don't wait until they become bigger troubles, like the solid ice here. The second line says straight, square, and great. Without deliberate practice, nothing is unfavorable. The second line is a yin line in a yin position, and it is also in the center of the inner trigram, so it is traditionally considered both central and correct. This means the quality of this line is balanced, proper, and naturally upright. Straight means honest and direct. It suggests inner correctness. Square means stable, proper, and grounded. A square doesn't roll around like a circle. Great means broad and able to contain many things. This is also the quality of Kun. The earth carries everything, accepts everything, and treats all living beings with great tolerance. This is why the line says, without deliberate practice, nothing is unfavorable. It means that when a person's nature is already straight, square, and great, then his actions become natural. He doesn't need to pretend or practice. Just like nature, he acts according to the right pattern. If this is your changing line, the advice is stay upright and steady. Act from your true nature. If you keep your heart straight, your conduct proper, and your attitude broad, things can develop smoothly. In traditional interpretation, this line can also suggest achievement, reputation, or success in one's position. Because when a person is naturally correct and acts without selfish calculation, others can trust him, and from that trust, recognition may come. The third line says, hidden brilliance can remain persevering. If one happens to serve the king, don't seek personal achievement, but bring the work to completion. This line is about hidden virtue and quiet contribution. The ability is here, but it isn't displayed too early. We might say, when a person has learning and cultivation inside, the elegance naturally shows. So this line tells us to keep our virtue, remain steady, and to not rush to show everything too soon. If a person is free from vanity, he can hide his ability and allow it to mature quietly. He doesn't need attention before the time is right, but this doesn't mean hiding forever. If conditions require it, he can also enter public life and take part in important work, but even then he acts with restraint. He doesn't try to take all the credit. Instead, he helps the work reach completion. If this is your changing line, the advice is keep your hidden virtue, continue cultivating yourself, and do the work without being too eager for recognition. Even if there is no obvious success or personal fame right now, there is also no great failure. What matters is that the work can be completed properly, and that your quilt contribution may support something larger. Then we look at the fourth line. A tied-up sack, no blame, no praise. This line gives us a very simple image. A sack that is tied closed. What is inside the sack may have value, but at this moment it is not opened. So this line is about knowing when to hide your treasure. In hexagram Kun, the yin quality can open when it is time to move and close when it is time to rest. Here the time is not suitable for showing off oneself too much. The situation may be dangerous, uncertain, or politically sensitive. The best response now is to be careful and restrict reserve, so that there is no blame, no praise. You may not gain glory right now, but you can also avoid trouble. Sometimes this is already the best result. In simple words, a wise man knows when to shut up. He can hide himself even in the middle of the word. Whether he is alone or surrounded by people, he knows how to remain quiet, careful, and unseen. If this is your changing line, the advice is very clear. Keep your mouth shut, say less, hide your thoughts, and don't expose yourself too much at this moment. This is not your time to show everything. Protect your ability and your position. Wait until the time becomes safer and more appropriate. Now we come to the fifth line. A yellow lower garment. Supreme good fortune. This is one of the most favorable lines in hexagram Kun. Yellow is the color of earth. It is also connected with the center, balance, reliability, and genuineness. The lower garment isn't something displayed loudly, so this line describes a person who has real virtue but doesn't show it off. He may be in an important position, but not an independent leading position. In this kind of situation, success doesn't come from showing power directly. It comes from discretion, sincerity, refinement, and inner correctness. His virtue shines quietly from within, like a yellow garment hidden below. The beauty isn't loud, but is genuine. It's very close to the spirit of Kun. It supports, carries, and completes things with deep and quiet strength. Therefore, supreme good fortune. If this is your changing line, the advice is stay modest, sincere, and grounded. You may have ability and virtue, or you may even be in an important position. Don't display yourself too aggressively. Let your quality appear naturally through your actions, your reliability, and your quiet contribution. Now we reach the top line. Dragons fight in the open field. Their blood is black and yellow. This is a very dramatic image. In hexagram Kun, all 6 lines are yin, and now yin has reached the highest position. Yin should know to return to its proper place, but it tries to rule as if it were yang. Therefore, there are dragons fighting in the open field. The dragon is usually the symbol of heaven, the creative yang force, but here another dragon appears, a force dragon, or an inflated earth force, trying to act like heaven. Xuan is the dark color of heaven. Huang is the yellow color of earth. So when the dark blood and yellow blood flow together, it means both sides are injured. The creative and the receptive both suffer because the relationship has been distorted. This is the danger of going beyond one's proper position. If this is your changing line, the image is not favorable. It may suggest that the situation has reached an extreme. Things may be coming to an end. Conflict, exhaustion, or danger may already be appearing. So the advice is don't continue the struggle. Don't insist on a position that is no longer right for you. Step back and return to balance. Finally, like Qian, hexagram Kun also has a special statement, using the 6. It appears when all 6 lines are changing yin lines. In that case, hexagram Kun pure yin changes into hexagram qian, pure yang. So this is a moment when the receptive is transforming into the creative. So using the 6 favorable through lasting perseverance. The advice here is not to rush forward widely. Hold firmly to what is right, stay steady, and through this endurance, the quiet power of yin can eventually transform into the active power of yang. If this appears in divination, the advice is don't panic or force change too quickly. Stay with what is correct and keep your patience. Let the transformation happen through long and steady perseverance. Overall, Kun means the receptive power. It is the power of the earth, broad, patient, quiet, and able to carry all things. From the 6 young lines of Qian, we saw how creative power grows, rises, acts, and changes according to timing. From the 6 yin lines of Kun, we see a different kind of wisdom. How to receive, support, follow, and complete the active power from the right position. Kun teaches us that strength is not always about leading. It receives the movement of heaven, gives it form, and allows all living things to flourish. We learn from the first line to notice small signs before they become serious. The second line teaches us to be straight, square, and great. We learn from the third line to hide our brilliance when the time isn't right, and to contribute quietly without chasing fame. The fourth line teaches us when to close the sack and protect our treasure. We learned from the fifth line that true virtue can be modest, grounded, and quite powerful like the yellow lower garment. And finally, we learn that when yin reaches an extreme, it must not try to dominate. Otherwise, harmony turns into conflict and both sides may be harmed. So to me, the spirit of Kun is be broad like the earth, be steady like the ground. Through quiet perseverance, allow good fortune to appear. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and continue exploring the I Ching with me. I will see you in the next video.